In this country, nobody dared to mess with the Italian Mafia. Politicians, businessmen, everyone would succumb before them. But this time, the Italian Mafia messed with a wrong woman who knows how to take revenge from her opponent. So she made a terrible example out of this mafia. Welcome or welcome back. I don't have many subscribers, but your comments are my motivation. So don't forget to share your review. At the start of the film, we see an Interpol agent being held hostage by an Italian mafia group. The mob wants him to give up the location of his colleague who tricked them. The agent refuses, which makes the mafia boss, Silvio, furious. Silvio ends up cutting off the agent's finger and says he'll keep torturing him. Eventually, the agent cracks and reveals that the colleague is in Borga. Silvio then kills the agent right after getting the info. Fast forward a month, and we meet Karina, a widow with a kid, working extra hours at a vegetable store. Karina used to be an addict, but has cleaned up her act. She gets a call from a friend, who's also a former addict, saying she's being harassed by a dealer over old debts. Karina rushes out of work to help her friend. When she gets there, she finds her friend scared and tries to comfort her. The dealer, Carlo, shows up demanding payment and mentions the debt has grown with interest. Karina tries to help, but they don't have enough money, so she gives Carlo her mother's ring. Carlo agrees to let her friend go, and Karina heads back to finish her shift at the vegetable store. Karina quickly wraps up her tasks and gets a call from her daughter, who's coming for the holidays. Her daughter, living with her ex-husband, plans to arrive at the airport around 5 a.m. and hopes Karina won't be late. Karina promises to pick her up on time. Later, while taking out the trash, Karina accidentally witnesses a robber in a shootout. Not wanting to get involved, she speeds away. The robber, not wanting any witnesses, grabs a stolen briefcase and chases after Karina. He forces his way into her car, demanding she drives him away. Meanwhile, the briefcase has burned up in the chaos. The robber, named Casey, has a bad stomach wound and asks Karina to take him to a pharmacy. Under threat, Karina has no choice but to comply. At the pharmacy, Casey tells Karina to buy the meds he needs and hands her a communication device. Karina buys the meds while Casey keeps his gun on her. The pharmacist sees Karina is in trouble and tries to help, but Casey fires shots and orders Karina to get back to the car with the meds, threatening to kill them both if she doesn't comply. Back in the car, Karina asks where they're headed next. Casey says he needs to go to her place to treat his wound. Karina explains she rents her home and takes him there. Once they arrive, Casey warns Karina not to try escaping because he'll hunt her down if she does. Inside, Casey asks for some clothes, and Karina finds some of her ex-husband's clothes. Casey then tells her to face the door while he changes. Turns out, Casey is actually an Interpol agent. He gets a call from Silvio, the mafia boss, who asks if Casey got the goods. Casey says he's run into problems and asks for more time. Karina overhears and figures out Casey is a corrupt agent working for the mafia. Casey then takes Karina to another spot, and she works up the courage to ask if he's really working for Silvio. Casey explains that he and his partner had infiltrated Silvio's mafia group, but their cover was blown, and his partner was killed. Casey managed to escape, but was forced to return. Silvio had him rob illegal goods from a rival, but the goods burned during the chase with Karina. Casey and Karina then head to a spot where he plans to trap some dealers to steal illegal goods again. He gives Karina some money and tells her to meet 2 dealers and pretend she wants to buy a lot of illegal stuff. When Karina meets the dealers, she says she wants to buy a huge quantity and has a suitcase of money in her car. She shows them the money Casey gave her to prove she's serious, but the dealers suddenly take Karina hostage and demand all the money now. Karina stays calm and says she's not buying the goods. It's her friend in the car who wants them. She warns them her friend will kill them if they try anything. The dealers, feeling trapped, agree to take Karina to their boss's warehouse and tell her to wait in the car for a courier who will take her to the warehouse. Back in the car, Karina pleads with Casey to let her go because she needs to pick up her daughter, but Casey ignores her. Soon after, a courier showed up to take them to the warehouse. Karina and Casey followed him, but then they lost sight of him. Karina checked the time and realized her daughter must have just landed at the airport. She distracted Casey and managed to sneak away. Casey, furious about being tricked, found Karina's phone in the car and decided to kidnap her daughter because Karina knew too much. He got to the airport first and spotted Karina's daughter, who was with a police officer waiting for her mom. Casey flashed his badge, pretending to be an Interpol agent, but when Karina's daughter realized something was off, she tried to run. A chase broke out, and Casey and the police officer ended up aiming guns at each other. Casey threatened that if the officer shot, the child would die too. The officer gave in, and Casey took Karina's daughter away. On the way, Karina's daughter, Lucy, asked why she was being kidnapped. Lucy told Casey that if he wanted money, he had picked the wrong person because her mom didn't have much cash. Meanwhile, Karina flagged down a police patrol car and told them her daughter was at the airport. She asked the officers to take her there. They saw she was upset and told her to get in the car. Suddenly, Casey showed up, and Karina tried to get the officers to arrest him, calling him a bad guy, but Casey showed his badge, convincing them he was an Interpol agent. Karina then realized that her daughter was already in Casey's car. Casey had a gun on one of the officers and demanded they surrender to avoid any casualties. He also told them to hand over their guns. The officers complied, and Karina had to switch cars. Once she was in the new car, she begged Casey to take the handcuffs off her daughter, and he agreed. During the drive, Casey got a call from Silvio, who asked if Casey had finished the job. Casey wasn't sure what to say and asked where Silvio was because he needed to talk. They soon arrived at Silvio's place, and Casey rushed inside. Silvio's men arrived to take Lucy away while Karina screamed, unable to do much since her hands were cuffed to the steering wheel. Inside, Casey asked Silvio for more time. Silvio, being a Mafia boss, gave him 1 more hour to steal 5 kilos of illegal goods. If Casey failed, there would be serious consequences. Casey went back to the car, and Karina asked where her daughter was. Casey explained that Silvio had given him just 1 hour to get the goods, and if he was late, Lucy would be killed. Karina was furious that Casey had dragged her daughter into this mess. It turned out Casey was following Silvio's orders because Silvio had also taken Casey's own kid hostage, so both kids were in danger, forcing them to team up. Karina then had an idea. She asked Casey to unlock her handcuffs and give her phone. Karina called Carlo, the guy who had taken her ring, and pretended she wanted to buy goods from him. Later, Karina met Carlo, and Casey showed up with a gun. Casey demanded a big load of goods. Carlo said he and his crew were out of stock, but Casey didn't believe him. Carlo ended up taking Karina and Casey to his hideout. Silvio was chilling, keeping an eye on the kids, saying their lives depended on the parents returning with the goods within the hour. Casey and Karina got to Carlo's hideout, where Carlo was suddenly killed by one of his own men. A shootout broke out between Carlo's gang and Karina and Casey. After dealing with Carlo's crew, Karina and Casey saw a woman named Emily trying to escape with a large bag, so they chased her. They managed to corner Emily, and Karina tried to calm her down, saying they wouldn't hurt her if she handed over the bag. Emily finally gave up and handed over the bag before running off. Karina and Casey got back in the car, and Casey checked the bag, finding it didn't have the illegal goods he needed. Casey said they were running out of time, couldn't search for the goods Silvio wanted. The only way to save their kids was to confront Silvio. Casey called Silvio, pretending he had the goods, and Silvio told him to come to a warehouse. Silvio also ordered Casey to get rid of Karina. When Casey arrived at the warehouse where Silvio was holding his child, he told Silvio's men the goods were in the trunk, including Karina's body. When they opened the trunk, a shootout broke out. Casey told Karina not to worry since there were only a few of Silvio's men. After taking them out, Karina and Casey looked for Silvio. Meanwhile, Silvio was trying to escape with Lucy and Casey's kids. Another shootout happened, and Karina begged Silvio to release the children and leave safely. Silvio said his other men would arrive soon. As Silvio put the hostages in a car, Casey tried to chase him, but got shot by Silvio. Silvio aimed at Karina, who realized her gun was empty. Karina managed to injure Silvio and ran to the car. The police arrived, leading to a shootout with Silvio. Just as Silvio was about to kill Karina, he got shot, and it turned out to be Casey. In the end, Casey, Karina, and their kids survived. The next day, Karina took her daughter to a motel with a bag Casey had given her. When she checked the bag, it was filled with a lot of money. A year later, Karina was successful and had opened a fancy restaurant on the Italian coast, all thanks to the money from Casey.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel out. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below with your suggestions for future videos, any questions you have, or just to say hi. Your feedback is super important to us and helps us create better content for you. Also, feel free to share this video with your friends, family, and on social media. It really makes a big difference and helps our community grow. You can follow us on Insert your social media handles for more updates and behind-the-scenes content. Thanks again for your support, and we'll see you in the next video.